Okay, then hello to everybody from my side. I'm Johannes Simboeck from the German National Academy of Science and Engineering, and I will be talking about the content requirements for the battery passport today as elaborated in our battery pass project. Let's get right into the scope of the battery passport, beginning with the regulation, of course. It is in force since August 2023 and has, of course, a lot of different articles that describe requirements for batteries, which then in turn have information that will be in the digital battery passport, described in Article 77, 78 in the battery regulation. This is the first digital battery product passport that will probably be in force, and also one step further than the ESPR. At the moment, already the data for the battery passport have been described, and so that is what I will be talking about just in a second. But before, let's take a look at the framework. As I already said, the battery passport will be required from 18th February of 2027, and its scope includes not all batteries, but only those in light means of transport, that is e-bikes or scooters. Also industrial batteries, which is a wide array of applications, including stationary battery storage systems, also trains or other heavy-duty batteries. And last but not least, of course, electric vehicle batteries, which is road transport batteries. Who is responsible for the battery passport? We already heard that today. It's the economic operator placing the battery on the market, or a third party that is authorized on behalf of this economic operator, which we also already heard today, is the manufacturer or the importer of the battery. Important to have in mind when we're talking about battery data, there are different access groups of stakeholders. There is public data for the general public. There will also be data that is only available to notified bodies, market surveillance authorities, and the Commission, so the government side. And a third group that is less defined, a natural or legal person with legitimate interest in accessing and processing that information. Who is that? That is the different groups along the value chain. It will be the end user who's interested in what is the information about the battery he's about to buy, or the recycler who wants to know the composition about the battery, and so further for the different stakeholders along the value chain. Let's get to the contents. How did we get there first? So of course we took the closest look at the battery regulation and the mandatory requirements for that come from there, but also took a broader look at the ESPR, of course, and other regulations that played into the data attributes that are required for the batteries. We did not do that on our own only, because we also, of course, had a broad network of organizations where we got feedback and had a lot of conversations to refine our drafts and put in the feedback into our results. So here's a really just rough overview on all the data points that are in the battery passport. It is 90 data attributes in total. We grouped them in different categories for them to be more accessible and to have a better overview. I'll lead you through them a little bit now in the short time that we have. We have general information, starting from the manufacturing info, who, where, and when was the battery manufactured, what application is the battery used in, what is its status along the battery value of the life cycle, and that is more of this general information that is not here in this overview. But let's move on to labels and certifications. Not only the symbols and labels on batteries are required, but also their meaning, so that end users will also understand what actually do those symbols and labels mean. Moving on to carbon footprint, which is of course an elemental part of the battery passport and of all digital product passports, describing the carbon footprint of the entire value chain of the battery, including recycling of the battery. So that is also why there are 5 metrics, 1 total value, and then different metrics for the different stages of the life cycle. Also important, of course, the social and ethical aspects of battery manufacturing, which will be reported in a due diligence report that is mandatory for the battery passport. And moving on to the materials and composition side, we already heard about that this is really important information for the recycler downstream. Besides the general information on battery chemistry, we have really detailed information on the hazardous substances, critical raw materials, and the materials used in cathode, anode, and electrolyte. I want to remind us here that we have those different access group levels. So this will, of course, not be public information, the detailed composition of the battery, but will be restricted to those stakeholder groups that are actually having a legitimate interest in knowing those information. Another subgroup we formed was circularity and resource efficiency. There will be recycled content shares required for batteries down the road that will be in the battery passport, concerning mainly lithium, cobalt, and nickel. And there will also be information about the handling of batteries that should ease the handling of batteries, materials, the manuals for removal, disassembly, and dismantling, information about the spare parts, and how to actually deal safely with the batteries at hand. Last but not least, performance and durability. I think those encompass 40 data points, also including dynamic data that we already heard about today. We will have to report data from the use phase, and that includes a lot of questions about how this will work exactly with connectivity of the batteries and so on that we cannot focus on right now, but I just wanted to mention that this will be required as well, and a key part, of course, for second life of batteries. Besides the data that we just looked at, we also made ourselves think about how does this information actually flow through the data and the value chain. So we came up with this slide here. Let's start at the OEM here. In this example, he's the responsible economic operator. He's responsible for collecting and exchanging the data across the upstream supply chain. This may occur either in a +1, -1 modus, so that the refiner might get information from the miner and then pass it on to the CAM producer and so on, so in a chain reaction, so to say. Or this may happen in a optional supportive system, i.e. traceability system, that is doing that in the as a service provider for the responsible economic operator. As I just mentioned, also data from downstream will have to be added into the battery passport. Together with the static information, it will be in the economic operator's back-end system, which then will be transferred into a DPP data repository, as we called it. So this includes the data already in the format required for the battery passport and will build the foundation for the data that is accessed through the battery passport. Access, I already mentioned before, the different groups. The battery passport will be accessible through a QR code that is on the battery or on accompanying documents to the battery. With a unique identifier, it will be integrated in the passport registry that is established with the ESPR. The only thing that is special here for battery passports, in contrast to digital product passports, is the web portal, which is not included in battery regulation as of now. So that is a difference to the ESPR as we read the regulations at the moment. And with this tour de force, I want to encourage you to take a deeper look at our website, where we have also a 200-page report, but a 50-page executive summary summing up what we have, and a data attribute long list. So take a look at it, see the QR code there. One last mention of the DIN DKE spec that we're preparing right now, working to provide our information also to the ongoing standardization processes, just a handover basically of the information that we already have, keeping them up to date and putting them out there again. Okay, thank you for your attention.